Okay, guys, very welcome back to the show, and I'm joined by a very, very special guest today, returning guest, Mr. Bull Buchanan, on for his second show. It's a great day for the podcast today. Hit 1 million views today, Bull. So you're the first guest on since then. So thanks for joining me.
Oh, that's great. Great to hear. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and it's glad to have guys like you that contribute to these things because I can't be sitting down here on my own talking to the walls. I need you guys to tell me these great stories that you have from your illustrious careers. So appreciate you and everyone I've had on.
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. I was just going to rewind back to 1997 last time, and when you were wrestling against tag teams like the Hardy Boys and the DOA and people like that when you first came in. What was it like coming into WWF in, I know you were there before that as well, but in that time in 1997, being around those guys tag teaming?
I mean, I had people I knew up there, so um, it was I was, I had friends already in there, and so that helps a lot. When we came in with the Truth Commission, Luke Poirier had worked with all the guys.
Oh, you're gone, Bill. You're gone already.
But uh, yeah, and by that, when I went back second time, like I said, I'd already met people up there. I knew, Bradshaw and Ron Simmons, some of those guys. So I don't know. It's probably easier for me, would have been somebody.
You're kind of breaking up a little bit there, would you believe?
Hold on, let's see if it. Still there?
Still here, man. You there?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm here.
um, yeah, the in around that time, you wrestled a couple of matches, then jump ship over to WCW for a couple of matches. You worked with the Big Show, Paul White, there in one of them. How did you end up kind of making the jump to WCW before you came back to WWF again, or how did that come about?
Oh, I never went down there. Uh, I worked a, I worked a independent show. Uh, Jim
Hmm.
Cornette and Jim Ross had gave me the green light to let me work some indie stuff. And a friend of mine knew somebody, and they were doing a show in Waycross, Georgia. So we drove down there and get there, and on the outside of the high school, out on the sign outside of it, it said WCW Wrestling Night. And I said, "What the hell? I can't do. I'm under contract with WWF." So we went in, and Terry Long was down there, and Kevin Sullivan was down there, and the guy that booked, I guess the guy that booked me, was I don't know who it was, somebody, but I explained to him. I said, "Hey, man, I don't know if I can do this or not." But they sent me out there with somebody, and just had me go over real strong on them. So, I don't think it was ever any. But yeah, that's my WCW one night in WCW story. But it is funny, but because I grew up in Georgia, so and especially around the time I got into business in the late '80s and early '90s, they were taping at center stage. It seemed like every day, and so that's really where I wanted to go. I mean, I grew up watching, Georgia Championship and then, World Championship and then WCW. So that was kind of, my home, what I grew up watching. So I
Yeah,
wanted to, I always saw myself going there. But after I went to Smoky Mountain and got involved with Jim Cornette and so just saw how the machine runs up there in WWF, I mean, it was kind of a no brainer.
yeah. Just a comment in there. Thanks, Diego. Congratulations on 1 million views. Big ups to the legend Bull Buchanan. There you go.
Hey,
Yeah. One guy I wanted to ask you that you worked a couple of matches with was Steve Blackman. I don't hear a lot of people talk about Steve, and I think he was kind of a guy maybe that was ahead of his time in terms of what he brought to the ring. What was he like as a person and as an athlete to be in the ring with?
Steve was a real good dude. He was he had a very dry sense of humor, but it was just, I mean, it was very funny. But Steve was a real good dude. But Steve was, I mean, he was legit. Yeah, I worked with him. worked a few matches. Took care of us, and never had to worry about getting hurt with him. But yeah, he was just all around good dude. Um, you know, if it, who knows? If it had been me, I'd have pushed him more. But they do what they do. But I always, and the whole thing with head cheese, with him and Al Snow,
Oh
it
yeah,
was just,
yeah,
and that was his sense of humor, just very dry. He wasn't portraying a character. That was really Steve. That very dry sense of humor, but it was absolutely just hilarious.
yeah. In around that time in '97, going into '98, do you have any memories of when the whole thing was going on with HBK, Shawn Michaels, and Austin, and when Mike Tyson came into the company, and what was he like backstage, or did you get to meet him?
Yeah, actually, we did. So I think it was Boston, and we were in the whole tag team, 400 tag team battle royal, whatever it was. We could barely all get in the ring, but it was WrestleMania. It was fun. But yeah, I just remember, we'd heard, that Sean's back had he'd been had a nagging back injury for a while, and he was just trying to, some of the behind the scenes stuff. I didn't know about it at the time, but I mean, he went out there, and I knew that we didn't see him around a lot that day. And I think I had talked to somebody, said he was trying to ice his back down, stay off of as much as he could, so he could actually get through the match. But if you remember, I think it might have been the Raw before the Go Home show, Raw before maybe. Uh, Mike Tyson and Steve Austin had a confrontation in the ring. Well,
Yeah,
Mike was backstage. I mean, he's a real cool guy, and he was fun to hang out with. But he has his whole entourage around. Go back and really slow that tape. You see how old I am? I'm talking about tapes. Slow that tape down and watch it. When Tyson hits Steve and they start wrestling around, $100 bills just start falling out of his pockets. And his entourage guys are on the mat trying to grab it up and pick it up during all this melee. Uh, but yeah, and we got to hang out with him a little bit at WrestleMania. Of course, the best one was Pete Rose. Pete
yeah.
Rose was at that WrestleMania, and
You got Tombstone by
yep,
Kane again. Yeah,
yep. Um, Me and Luke went to his dressing room, and he actually has dressing room door open. And some of his guys were standing there, and they said, "Hey," I said, "Hey, we'd really like to meet Pete if he wouldn't mind." He said, "Oh no, he'd love to meet you." And as we walk in, he's watching the horse racing on TV, and he says, "Go figure, two guys walk in I don't know, and I'm watching the horse racing." So, but he was hilarious. He was funny, and he was real cool to hang out with too. Um, and he kept coming back, years and years. That was a whole running thing, with Kane.
yeah, yeah. Kane would always every time Pete Rose showed up, you knew Kane was going to be very close behind him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of the man Kane, Mayor of Knoxville, Glenn Jacobs, what was it like working with him? I know you worked with him in singles competition, also against the Brothers of Destruction over the years. What's Kane like?
One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. That's everybody says the same thing about him. He's kind of like Ray Traylor. You'd have to look hard to find somebody to say a bad thing about Glenn. But he was easy to work with. I mean, the Kane character was so over at the time. Um, he was easy to work with. It it never really dawned on me until he shot me off the ropes one day just how big and how strong he actually was. And it's not that he slung me or anything like that. It's just when I grabbed his hand, when he grabbed my hand, I knew my hand had been gotten. He's a
Hmm.
big dude. I don't think anybody else. I don't think anybody else could have pulled that character off to the extent that he did and had the run that he did. We'd worked down Smoky Mountain together as
Yeah.
he was a Unabomber, and he was wearing the old. It was kind of like the Lord Humongous uh, outfit, he was wearing that at the time, but he would take the mask off and wrestle in the ring. So uh, it was kind of a natural. I think it was kind of a natural progression into the Kane character. Because they're both characters are kind of similar. The way that Jeff Van Camp and Sid, the way they did, humongous. It was basically just indestructible. Uh,
Yeah.
and it was kind of the same thing with Kane. So, but yeah, I mean, what a great story. It's fun to say for me a lot of times now, looking back on things, it's a lot of fun to say that I was, just that I was there. You know, to me, this is, the kind of stuff that the history of wrestling is made out of, like the night Kane debuted. I was there. It was wild because the people saw him coming out, and it's like, everybody kind of knew, oh, that's him, because we'd been hearing the buildup from Percy, for, I don't know, maybe a couple of months at that point. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, we were there that night when he ripped the cage door off, the people were just their jaws dropped, and he came down there and went toe to toe with Taker.
And he was like Undertaker was in previous years. Kane kind of was in that era where kayfabe was pretty much still alive, and you see a lot of shots of Glenn from Polaroid cameras back in the day of him like leaving a hotel room with the mask on and stuff like that. Did he just wear
Yeah.
that everywhere?
Yeah. Well, if he didn't, he'd put a towel over his head. He'd pull a towel over his head and, go through the airport and stuff like that. But, yeah, I mean, and, it, they protected the identity. Of course, the internet wasn't what it is now back then, but it was getting started up.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I don't think anybody else could have pulled it off the way he did.
Yeah. What did you guys do when you were going out for dinner? Would he wear a towel on his head then?
I mean, he didn't go out a lot. He was kind of a homebody. There was a few of us, or just get done and go to the hotel. But uh, it's funny. A funny story. I went to Puerto Rico and got back, and Jim Cornette called me. He said, "Hey, I'm gonna bring you in, but I ain't ready to bring you in yet. But I want you to come in and do this." So I think it was Ricky Morton. Yeah, Ricky Morton and Al Snow were in a cage, and Robert was handcuffed outside, and Unabomber was supposed to be handcuffed outside to the other side. Well, they put Glenn under the ring with a cup to pee in at about an hour before they started opening doors, and I dressed up in his Unabomber outfit, never took the mask off. But walked out there, got handcuffed, stood there. I think we were handcuffed, but stood there the whole time, and nobody was. I was listening to the people because I was right there in front of them, and nobody was saying anything. They thought that was Kane or Unabomber, and at the
Yeah.
right time, he moved the boards and come up through the mat, and people were looking at me, and they were looking at him, and they were looking at me, and looking at him, and they uncuffed me, and I just walked back to the back. But yeah, I was Unabomber for a night.
Excellent, excellent. That's another little piece of history that people are like as well. Um, the APA, Farouk and Bradshaw, tough guys on screen. Were they as tough off screen? Were they
Oh yeah.
living their gimmicks?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. They've uh they've had a couple of people try them, at different places out in, they go out to the bars and stuff. Yeah, people have tried them, but as far as I know, nobody came out on top. I don't want to, tell stuff, but Ron Simmons, cleaned out a few of them up in Louisville one night. Uh, but they were easy to work with in the ring. They didn't complain about getting hit hard, and they hit hard and they didn't complain about it, which made it much easier. But yeah, I hung out with him a little bit and enjoyed it. Ron Simmons is a man's man. He grew up hard. He grew up having to, as a teenager, having to, raise the rest of his family, and went down there and played football for Bobby Bowden. And, I mean, he's a legit tough guy. And Bradshaw, hell, he's just a Texan. He likes to fight. He likes to drink, or used to. Huh? But those guys were fun to go out with. They were fun to ride with. I jump. I do. Everybody I guess everybody does it, car hopping. Sometimes when Ray or Godfather, my regular riders, if they weren't on the loop or whatever, jump in with those guys. So, yeah, really good guys, but yeah, they're legit.
Who would be stupid enough to try fight those guys in the bar? I just don't understand.
Oh, there's always somebody. There's always some. It's usually some little dude. Figures if he can score a lucky punch, and then
Is
there
it
you go.
is it a case where you guys go out and then people know you're wrestlers, and then there's the one guy in the corner of the room that's like wrestling isn't real, and it's that kind of guy usually, is it?
Yeah, yeah, and it's always at the bars. It makes you not even want to go. I mean, you like to go out
Mm,
and socialize with your friends, and just kind of kick back and relax. But sometimes it's not even worth it because yeah, it's always some little asshole
yeah,
in the corner.
yeah.
Uh,
What do you make of all this stuff now at the moment? With I seen Jeff Hardy being approached at the airport maybe a month, 6 weeks ago, and some guy got him to sign 27 fucking 8x10s. He signed them all because he's just a nice dude. But
you
what do you
know,
think of that kind of shit?
it's funny because when I first got up there, no, nobody asked for our pictures or much for autographs when we were the Truth Commission. I don't even know if we had pictures or not. But when I got up there with Ray, we had a lot of pictures done. It was a whole different story. And I remember getting off the plane from Atlanta to wherever we were going. Me and Ray got off together, and there was people up there waiting. And Ray was a sweetheart. He'd go out of his way to sign stuff. Make people feel good. So he signed one too, and I started signing them. And the guy is the same thing. The guy had a whole stack of them. And hell, I'm just signing away, and I signed every one of them. And thanked him. I was like, God, that guy really loves me. And I walked off, and Ray says, they're selling them on eBay, don't you? And I said, get out of here. And he's like, yeah. He said, I just signed one. I put the date, who's to, but I don't know. I'll sign as many as I can. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Just
I
it's
know,
just
people are, hey, if you make a buck off of me, go do it.
yeah.
I'm just glad
I
people
just
still ask.
Yeah, it's just kind of like when they're kind of, as you alluded to in the bar, like when people's personal spaces are being invaded, it's just kind of unnerving to watch sometimes.
Me and Ray, we were out to eat at WrestleMania with our wives, and a guy had his kids over there. And I was so used to Ray being, this nice guy, sign as much as you want to, take pictures. He would get us. We'd go to schools and read books to the kids.
Yeah.
Uh, when we got into town, stuff. He always had something lined up. He did a lot of charity stuff. But we were sitting there eating, and the guy come up and he was real nice. He said, "Hey, I hate to bother you." And Ray turned around, and looked at him, and said, "But you did, didn't you?" And it was like, oh, it was one of those oh God moments for me because I'd never seen him, like that. And I said, "Oh shit." Uh, but he said, "If you just give me a minute, we'll finish eating, and I'll be glad to sign it for you." So but the way he's kind of snapped at him, I was like, "Oh God, what's happening here?" I'd never seen Ray like that. But
It's probably because you're with your families, I'm guessing, rather
yeah,
than
yeah.
if it was just you and him,
But
it
yeah,
could have been
yeah,
different.
yeah.
Yeah. What one thing that people always talk about, like I talk to people from the 80s, 90s, the early 2000s, different things like that, is about like scripts, being given scripts to read and stuff like that. So when you were, say, in the right to censor and you guys were doing your whole spiel and stuff like that, how much kind of creative freedom did you have, or would they kind of give you like bullet points? We want you to hit this and hit that, or what way did it work when you guys were doing promos?
It was more like bullet points. I don't know if I ever really read a script. It was more like bullet points. I had, get this, and get this, and then the rest of it was just kind of ad lib. I mean, they gave us that kind of freedom. But the generation before that, bullet points were unheard of. They just told them how much time
Sure.
they had and, what town, what market that was going out in, so you could plug the arena and you could plug the who you're working. Um, but I guess it's just progressively, as time has gone on, but ours was just pretty much bullet points. And then we would kind of ad lib, to me, it's hard being somebody that you're not the best gimmicks are just the people themselves, and it just turned up. I know
Hmm.
everybody says that, but it's really true. The best,
Yeah,
the Rocky is just Dwayne Johnson turned up to 10. Steve Austin is just Steve Williams turned up to 10. The best ones because they're believable. You know,
yeah.
like trying
And
to
the
trying to play us
Godfather.
out. Yeah, the Godfather. I mean, it's believable because it's really him. Uh, so yeah, I mean, like the Truth Commission was a bit of a stretch for me. I'm from the South, but not South Africa. Uh, but when I got with Ray, we were both supposed to be from Cobb County, Georgia. These badass prison guards. Well, I had never been a prison guard, but I knew a few, so it was easy for a character for me to play. And with the RTC, I approached it as what I had seen growing up. Like a Southern Baptist minister, that kind of thing. Uh, and then with the B2, I just kind of based that off Eminem. The wife beater and the pants.
Yeah.
Who was hot at the time, and I was actually a fan of. So even though it was a stretch for some people to see me do, I was riding around listening to his tapes, or God, I dated myself again, CDs. I'm listening to Eminem, to Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, all that stuff. So it was something I knew a little bit about, and I think the like I said, the best characters are just extensions of yourself.
Mm. So which character that you played then was most like you over the years?
Probably Boss Man, probably me and Ray.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that's the one that I really felt the most comfortable in. I don't know if that was just because of Ray, or I grew up watching the Big Boss Man. Um, and like I said, I
Were
mean,
you,
I actually had friends that were in law enforcement, so it
were
wasn't that
you
much of a.
there? Were you there at the time when all the big show, big boss man stuff was going on with the dragging of the casket in the graveyard and all that kind of stuff? Were you around at that time?
No, but I was actually in OVW at that time, but I watched it every night, and I was like everybody else, I was just rolling in the floor laughing. And Ray got such, I could tell he got such a kick out of that, that they actually did stuff like that. And I think I'm not sure. I guess you'd just have to talk to Big Show, but I want to say Ray might have been responsible for one of his t-shirt. I think the big fat bastard T-shirt that he had for so long that he probably made $1 million off of. I think Ray told me the story, and I think maybe uh, Big Show did too. That Ray actually came up with that. He called him a big, hey, big bastard, and they turned into a T-shirt. So Ray had a lot of fun with that. I guess everybody still talks about that. Feeding the dog chili, feeding to him.
Oh
But the one that
yeah.
sticks out in my mind is the canine match where they had the dogs outside the ring.
Oh,
That was
I talked
that
to
was
Al
actually
about
a
that.
good match. Yeah, it was a good match, and nobody ever remembers the match because everybody was too busy watching those dogs hump and take and poop and everything else that dogs do out there on the outside of the ring all night. I think they finally just had to cut away from them and not show them
Yeah.
because there's two over there humping in the corner, and there's everything going on with the dogs.
Al was like so disappointed. I knew from talking to him. I talked to him on the podcast, and like he and him and Ray had a really good rivalry, and he said the
Yeah,
blow off just fucking ruined the whole thing. Really,
yeah,
untrained animals. He said.
yeah. Yeah, they were just having a party outside. Guys were trying to wrestle inside. So, yeah.
It was absolutely crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. Um, in 2000, you got to work with The Rock a little bit. Dwayne Johnson, we touched on him earlier. You said he was a version of himself turned up. What's your memories like with him?
All great ones. We actually had to change hands there for a minute. We
Yeah.
actually started at the same time in New York. we both flew up and took our visits. Talked with Vince at the same time, and I think maybe he got down to Memphis a few weeks before I did because him and Bart already had the tag belts when I got down there. But we hung out down there. He had a little apartment there. I can't remember the name of the street there in Memphis, and if you ever need a place to stay, I stayed over a few nights with him. We were just, we were all broke. I mean, we were getting $500 a week. Rocky had probably the best car between all of us. I don't even know what Bart had, but most of the guys down there, kind of took us right in. Treated us good. Wolfie and Jamie, they were always real cool. Dundee, he was always cool. And a lot of the people down there, but a lot of times we would ride with each other, and it really is. Dwayne Johnson is the Rock is just him turned up. We were. I remember being in. I think he had like an Isuzu, some little Isuzu SUV, and me, Bart, him. Sometimes Brickhouse Brown would ride with us. Sometimes Brian Christopher would ride with us. But we always had a good time. But he was saying stuff like smacking your candy ass. He was saying stuff like that back then, and he just transitioned on to TV when he got the chance. But yeah, come right in, and right off the bat, get to work with him and me and Ray against him in the cage. You know, and he actually, I remember him coming to me in the dressing room and saying, "Hey, listen, because this was he'd already been there. He'd already blown up to a full blown superstar, you know." And I'd been there, but this is like my chance to really make something happen. And I remember him pulling me aside in the shower there and said, "Hey man, just it's just like Memphis, me and you. Let's just go with it. Don't worry about what we're doing." And just kind of gave me a pep talk. And yeah, went out there and got to work with him, and then later on got to do a little bit with him as in RTC. Um, but yeah, it's a good dude. I mean, he's down to earth. It's not an act or anything like that. He's a really good guy. He's you know one of the biggest
Charles,
superstars.
yeah. Charles told me that the Rock stopped riding in his car because he kept smoking weed. The Rock didn't want to smell
Yeah,
weed with him.
yeah. Rocky's a better guy than
Hilarious.
I was, but I kept riding with him. No, yeah, I know.
Yeah, that match you were referring to, a match there you worked with The Rock. I think he was with Billy Gunn and I think the late China as well in a
Yep,
mixed tag match with you guys before.
yep.
China, Joni Laura, what was she like?
She was a sweetheart. She really was. She was a really nice lady. I think the I think the machine kind of got to her.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it kind of got to her. Um, and I hate
there
to
was a
say
lot
that
of
because
pressure, a lot of pressure on her shoulders back then.
yeah, there was and
Yeah,
she was wrestling girls and guys, uh, and whatever happened in her personal life, but yeah, I mean she was a sweet lady.
yeah, yeah. And Chris Jericho, another guy that you got to work with. He's still doing it. It's crazy to think about it. What was Chris
Unbelievable.
like?
Oh, Chris is a good guy. Unbelievable that he's still doing this, and not just. I mean, I can put on a pair of trunks and waddle out there around the ring, and do stuff like that. But it's not. I mean, he's still having 5-star matches with these guys. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I don't think we met when I was. We missed each other in Smoky Mountain, but once I got up there, he came in. He was a real good guy. We had that one match. We worked on TV. He was very giving in that match. Uh, and I've heard that he had he was wanting to do his talk show, and I remember I've heard since then that he said he really wanted guys like me to help elevate other guys. And then fast forward 25 years, I mean, look how many guys he's elevated now, in
Yeah,
AEW and New Japan. So Yeah, I mean he deserves it. He's worked hard for it. Uh
He's one of the hardest working guys, like, because if he's not wrestling, he's in movies. If he's not in movies, he's touring with his band. If he's not touring his band, I think he's just had his 1,000 podcast episode. And in 2 weeks' time, he's going to be in Wembley Stadium in front of 90 plus thousand people at that massive AEW show as well, wrestling. From what I
that's
hear,
unbelievable.
Will
Yeah, that's unbelievable, isn't it?
yeah, Will Ospreay is supposedly fighting Chris Jericho, and obviously, Will Ospreay is one of the best wrestlers on the planet. So that's the
Oh yeah,
rumor. It's not confirmed.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Oh no, my youngest son, who's just starting wrestling, Zach. He's in love with Zack Sabre Jr. and Will Ospreay. He really likes the catch can, that style of wrestling. Um, but yeah, Will Ospreay, man. Jericho's. He's got. I mean, I think he's a little bit younger than me, but he's got to be in his 50s already.
I think
Just
he's
back.
54. I'm not
Oh
100%
God,
on
yeah,
that.
yeah. So yeah, this is unbelievable, unbelievable.
Mm. You just wouldn't think it, even by just where he's at, kind of in his life, even
Yeah,
still at this level. But
and his
yeah,
rock
good
band's
dude,
good too. His rock band's good too. If you never listened to him,
Fozzy.
it's
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
pretty.
I'm a big fan. I actually got to do a little bit of work for the band the last time he was over here, but I didn't get to really introduce myself to him because the band kind of come in and they set up the foundations for the show. Chris came in and done the VIP. I was just taking a few videos and photos, and then he was kind of gone back into a cab and back to the hotel. And then
Yeah,
come stage time, he's just kind of in the back door and on again. And I didn't want to be a fucking mark and go up to him and all. I just gave him his space. But
yeah,
I do want him as a guest though on this show. So if you are watching, Chris, which you're not, I'd love for you to come on the show someday. Another interesting character from back in the WWF and the way the story went, like with him and Andrew Test Martin, who you worked with, and then kind of what was he like as a person? First of all, I've only heard good things as well.
yeah. He was a good guy. We worked a little together. But I mean, you're around these guys, for the better part of the year. Same people are on the road and around, around with each other. So we got to do after. I guess I know it was after our release. I guess Test had got released too from WWF. Me and D'Lo, of course, we went to Japan and we were over there. D'Lo bought into I think it was an arena football team. I think it was there. I don't know if it was in Chicago. I think it was in Illinois somewhere, maybe. But for their first game, we put on a wrestling show before in the arena in the football stadium, and I think Test tag with somebody against me and D'Lo, and we got to work each other. And I guess that was the last time we got to work each other. Man, he was another guy. He was a big dude,
Yeah,
chiseled, the long blonde hair. Um, I mean, he got a good run up there, but you always think it could have been better, I guess. Uh,
yeah. What
you
what
know,
did you think? What did you think of the way they done the whole? Him and Stephanie were together in real life, and then they done the Triple H marrying her on TV and all that kind of stuff. Did you think that stuff was kind of unnecessary, or was it just trying to bring a bit of realism, kind of like they done with, I suppose, Matt Hardy and Lita and Edge and that triangle later on?
yeah, I think so. I mean, like most of the time, a lot of stuff you don't know um, until you see it actually on TV yourself. Um, you know, that wedding, and I think everybody knew it was going. Of course, is going to be something happen. It's WWE. It's a wedding. It
Yeah,
always does. Um, but I mean, I really didn't see that one coming. With Triple H but I mean, people still uh, uh,
just broken up there slightly, but you back with me?
Hey, you back?
Yep. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you. I'm sorry.
It's all good, man. You were just saying people still to this day, and you were going to make a point on that.
Yeah, they still ask me if they're really married. I said, yeah, really married. Uh, but it was a good swerve. I mean, I don't think anybody really saw that one coming. And then it's weird how everything just kind of built off. It's what his character built off the Montreal thing. Turned him into the biggest villain in the industry. And then that really put Stephanie on the main stage more than what she was, I think. Um,
Yeah. You hear me? Okay.
yeah, you there?
Yep. Yep. I'm here.
Yeah, I'm back.
I think you're slightly gone again. I think.
Uh-oh. You see me?
I can see it.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we're good again.
Okay.
Yeah. Any memories? Any memories that come to mind from Vince McMahon? Maybe of any advice or anything he ever gave you for your characters, or was there ever a moment where he asked you maybe to do something differently? Because I know he was very kind of he knew what he wanted pretty much from his characters.
Yeah. No. The biggest thing I remember taking from Vince was he he's said it many times. But he told me, he said, we're not it's not a wrestling show. So we're making a 2 hour movie, a 2 hour Hollywood movie is what we're doing. And, that's the way he envisioned it. And that's pretty
Hmm.
much what we've done, ever since then. Just, I mean, I think sometimes we're taking it even more in that direction. Uh, but, he just, he'd always pump, he would always, uh, tell me to, be big out in the ring. That was his thing. Don't ever make yourself look small. And he was. I think you know they had a relationship for a long time. And Ray told me something one time. It kind of stuck with me. Yeah, Ray said one time that Vince likes real people. He likes people that can you know talk to him about what's going on Wall Street and talk to him about what's the kids doing. He always liked people that were real. And I think
Yeah.
that's why he liked Ray so much. They had a long history. Ray told me that I forget who he talked to, but he had just left WCW as a Bubba Rogers over to Japan, so he made a little money there. He got home and put him in touch with Vince, and Vince told him he sent him a lot tomorrow. So he said he got there, and Vince picked his Cadillac, and they rode around for a little while and talked. And they parked over, I guess, where it would be Stanford Towers. Uh, and he laid out the whole boss man idea. He asked Ray, he said, "I on money." He says, "Well, I got a little bit from Japan, but that's about it." And I think he gave him a roll like, $8,000-$9,000 a year. Get you going. Uh, you there?
Yeah. It kind of went there. So you were saying that Vince picked him up anyway, and he was asking him did he have much money, and then we kind of lost you from there.
Yeah, they already gave him a roll for about $8,000 or $9,000, something, and told Ray, let this will hold you over till we get you on the road and get you start paying you. Uh, I mean, I know everybody's got a different story about Vince, and some they go from the extreme of he's the greatest guy in the world to the devil itself. My experience with
Yeah.
Vince was I always enjoyed talking to him. I always uh, I always respected him for what he had done, in the business, and I respected him even more after he got out there with us and started taking bumps and getting hit with chairs. and garbage
Yeah.
cans. It's hard not to respect some, especially your boss that gets right in there with you and does whatever you're doing. And through the 2 or 3, it went on, but hopefully when I did stuff like that. So it's it makes you feel better about if boss ain't afraid to do it with you.
Yeah, he kind of set an example for you guys the way, and with his family as well.
You there?
Yep. Can you hear me?
All right, you're back. Yeah.
Yeah. Another random thing I wanted to ask you about was, do you remember the time when Billy and Chuck got married? Do you remember that whole
Yes.
scenario with Billy
Yes.
and Chuck? Because I know you were around at that time. What was kind of the
Yes.
reaction like backstage to all that stuff going on with the two guys, with Palumbo and Billy?
They oh it was fun. Rico Constantino, I think I can't remember if they used his name up there or not, but it was Rico Constantino was the man.
They just used Rico.
Pretty good. Yeah, Rico. We're pretty good friends over here. We wrestled, so we knew each other. And, of course, I knew Billy and Chuck had just come in, but Chuck was a cool guy. He was into bikes and stuff like that, tinkering around with cars and bikes and stuff. So, the funniest thing was when they actually, that night, I remember getting there, and Eric Bischoff was already in costume. He was already dressed up as the preacher. And he was standing there as people were walking by. And as I came by, he asked me, he's got the preacher, the white collar and everything. And I had not a clue who it was. They did that good of a job on his makeup. And he asked me if he, do you know where I can get a drink? And I guess he was catching random people as it go, and he asked me if I knew where he could get a drink. And I thought, holy, the preacher's looking for looking for the bar. I said, well, I don't know, sir, but I went on and I felt like an idiot because later on I said, oh, that's Bischoff. But, and then Eki and Rosie, they brought them in and they started doing their thing. But when they were out there and the actual wedding was going to go through and Chuck turned around and said, hey, we're not gay or anything.
Yeah.
The reaction of the crowd and just the backstage, everybody was rolling in the floor. It was really funny. Yeah, I was there that night. It was hilarious.
Do you think the guys enjoyed the whole role? Like,
I think I don't know. I guess I don't know. I never really talked to him about. And me and Palumbo, we did quite a few tours in Japan together. I don't really remember saying that they. I think they probably looked at it as I did with B Square. That was totally
yeah,
out of my wheelhouse, but I looked at it as a challenge. And then, same thing with those guys. I think whether they liked it or not, they probably looked at it the same way I did. Well, hell, I can do anything. I can make chicken salad out of chicken shit, and here I'm going to show you. And they did. They pulled it off. I mean, it was a good angle they had going there for a while.
Yeah, I think when you look back on it, it wasn't in a derogatory way either that the two guys were supposedly these gay characters either. It was done in a tasteful way, and it kind of brought it to a new inclusive level. I feel after maybe stuff that went on back in the day with Goldust and different things like that. It was kind of more modernizing the audience as well.
Yeah.
It's a strange old world, the wrestling one, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a guy, Dustin Rhodes. I know he's my age, and he's still going out there. Unbelievable.
Yeah, man. Jesus Christ! Like, how is he still doing it?
I know, and still doing it well. I ran across him at a show when just down here, and we talked a little bit. he looked like he gotten back in really good shape. Um, but yeah, man, that's another one. He really does not get the credit he deserves. I'm glad he's getting a little more credit now because he's never gotten the credit he deserved. I was a fan of Dustin Rose when he was the natural. I
Yeah.
mean, he fit right into that Barry Windham, the big guy that can move and is just smooth worker. Um, he fit right into that mold. I was a fan back then, and uh, and with Gold Dust, I mean, there again, I don't think anybody could have pulled that off outside of Dustin.
Mm. What was it like getting to compete in a Royal Rumble?
Oh, I mean, they're always a cluster. I mean, you try to make them as smooth as you can, but just having that many guys in a ring together, it's always a little bit of a you have to be careful where you're stepping, bumping into people, things like that. But I was in, two or three of them. The last one at 2003, I just basically come in and hit everybody one time, and then tried to squash. I think it was Edge. Tried to squash Adam in the corner, just went over the top myself, and so it was kind of in and out. And I think I did the same thing with Matt and Jeff. I think I was in there with Jeff and rocking and rolling, and Matt come in and I did something, wound up. But uh, it's always a lot of fun. I mean, it's pretty easy. I mean, you have to, like I say, you just have to be careful with that many people in the ring.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of how
I
much
guess the
planning
Royal
goes into
Rumble
a
is
day like
kind
that.
of
Sorry.
a good bit. You got to get everybody lined up and lined up where they got to be and what order they got to go in and that kind of stuff. So, time you get all the boys together, there's always usually a little bit of tomfoolery going around. So, uh, sometimes it's hard to keep everybody, focused on the goal there. People get sidetracked. Uh, I remember, and I want to say maybe it was a Royal Rumble. It was a battle royal, maybe leading up to the Royal Rumble or something. And Vince had a meeting with all the guys and came out and said, "All right, guys, look, no play and grab ass out there. Let's keep it serious and stay focused on what we're trying to do." Uh, battle royals, and I guess the Royal Rumble is the evolution of the old battle royal. And those things were basically just, find somebody, grab them, and get in a corner somewhere and stay out of the way. Stay busy and stay out of the way till it thinned out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Eddie Guerrero, a man you got to work with as well. I asked you about his friend Chris Benoit last time. We touched on
Yep.
Chris and just said we'd touch on Eddie today. Another guy that's very highly thought of. What was your experience like with him?
Um, you got to meet him when they came in as Radicals because I had not met him before that. Um, and right off the bat, such bad luck. He did that frog splash and broke his arm. But it didn't take him long to get traction and start doing start getting in angles. He did the thing with China, which was great. Everybody knew
Yeah.
Eddie had personality, and I mean, of course, he probably one of the best workers in the world at that time. um, but I mean, it's not it's well known, I guess. Eddie had problems there for a while. I don't think I never saw it interfere with his work. Um,
Yeah.
I never saw it interfere with his work, whether it did or not. But it was so good to see him get straightened back out and get back up on the main roster and have the run that he did. Me and Cena got to work with him a good bit, him and Chavo, and it was easy. It was fun. I mean, they're both easy to work with. I think one of the matches, Eddie got slammed or something on the outside and it threw his back out. And so he was, we all knew that, Chavo got word to us that his back was out. But we kept going in the match and got in there and just kind of freelanced it, kind of ad libbed and there at the end, there was supposed to be, Eddie. I look up and Eddie's getting up off the mat. I think he could barely stand up. Getting up off the mat, pulls himself up, and
Oh, we've lost Bull Buchanan. But yeah, guys, 1 million views anyway today. Hopefully Bull will be able to come back and join us for the end. Here he is now.
I'm back.
You're back.
I'm
Okay.
gonna move out of the sticks one day and move somewhere that's got internet service.
It's all good. So you were talking about Eddie putting out his back.
Yeah, throughout his back, and then we had Chavo there outside, and I look up and there's Eddie, pulling himself up by the ropes and does a plancha out on all of us. Like everybody else, he worked through injuries a lot, and, but it was nice to see him get the recognition, him and Chris both, that they deserved. There a few years later, but it was fun working with Cena. Would come up. Cena had, Cena would come up with all his verbiage coming out of the ring, but he would usually tell me what he was going to say, what he was going to rap to, or what he was going to. And he told me that, the night we were working Eddie and Chavo, I can't remember exactly. It's on YouTube. But he said something to the effect of, them swimming across El Paso, to El Paso, or selling oranges, or something pretty derogatory like that. And I asked him, I said, does Eddie and them know that you're going to say this? He said, no. He said, we'll find out when we get in the ring. But they were easy to work with. Looking back on it, it's, of course, you can say that, man, I got to work with Eddie Guerrero. He's in that league to me. Of some of those people that you look back on after it's all said and done. He's like, man, I got to work with Eddie Guerrero. I'm sure that's like somebody from the older generation say, hey, man, I got to work with Lou Thez.
Yeah, exactly. Were you ever at a situation at a show where I've talked to guys before, and they might get to a show and, okay, I've got no match tonight, but I've got extra work to do, or I've got to be a druid for the Undertaker, or I've got to do some backstage kind of segment. What's the most random thing, or have you done anything random where you didn't actually have to wrestle one night over in the WWF?
Well, some nights just not on TV. They bring you anyway just to have you there. You might do a dark match or something like that. No, I never really done any extra work. I pretty much just came in, and went to work. Like I said, WCW was down in my woods. I was around to hear, you know,
Kind of lost you again, man. You're back.
You there?
Yep. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm going to take a couple of questions here, guys. And this one here from Ibzad. We actually touched on this in the last podcast that he's got like a suitcase full of shirts and pants, white shirts and black pants, which I told him that he should be going out in the convention world and signing some of those shirts and giving them out to people. Diego, yes, please do hit a like and a comment and enter the live stream chat. Guys, apologies for some of the connection issues here today on the end. You just don't know when you're doing these shows what kind of signal issues you might encounter. So that's the joys of doing a live show. And I said I'm going to do live because 1 million views today. I can ask some of these questions when Bull comes back. And Ian, yeah. If you watch my interview with the Godfather, Charles Wright, you'll see that he kind of goes into detail about why he wasn't happy in the right to censor, and in my previous interview with Bull, he goes into details of himself and Stephen Richards kind of not seeing eye to eye, and a lot of kind of stuff was going on back then. I don't think that Charles was ever comfortable portraying that character. Guardian of Chaos, congratulations, GP. Well done, Morris. Yes, great day, Guardian of Chaos. Delighted. All thanks to your good friend Mario Mancini. In fairness, Mario Mancini is still the most viewed wrestling podcast on this channel. He has been overtaken by a porn star on the top viewed podcast, but just don't tell him that, or he might get in trouble. If any of you guys watching have any questions while I'm waiting for Bull to come back, you can fire them in away there. I'm not a very interesting person, but I'll still answer them if you guys have any. And coming up next Tuesday, we have another live interview. I've actually got a couple coming up, and I can go through them here now while I'm waiting for Bull. If Bull can come back, I'm not 100% sure. So let me see. On Friday, I have two great independent wrestlers, the Black Dahlia and Evil Nate Hewitt, and both of those are going to be on with me on Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to discuss their careers. They have been through a lot in their lives together, and we are going to kind of go through what they have been through. And guys, you may have seen them before on my channel, and guys, if you haven't seen them before, you're in for a treat. So August 9th, then I have Chris Nelson back on for a third interview. His last interview went really well. It's kind of trending there at the moment on the interweb over some comments that Stephanie McMahon made to him in character. To be fair, there's a lot of clickbait going around about the podcast at the moment, and people are saying that that Stephanie McMahon fat shamed him, and that's not really true. It was part of the character at the time. So, guys, I think I'm going to wrap this up here. Just want to say thank you to everyone for watching over the last nearly 3 years. We're just about going to hit 1 million views. Bring him back another day. Yeah, I will bring him back another day. Yeah, it's just that we did have issues last time, and I had to really slice up the interview, and then I lost key elements that I wanted. But then I didn't want to go back and ask the same questions again today, so I kept it different. But unfortunately, there was a few technical issues again. Maybe I'll just have to meet the guy in Philadelphia when I go over there next year. We just sit down together, as I'm assuming he's going to be at WrestleCon. So maybe we'll just have to do some of these things in person and not rely on the internet as much as we do. But appreciate you watching tonight, guys, and keep an eye out on the channel. It's going to be coming thick and fast now from now until the end of the year, and we're going to try and double this 1 million to 2 million by the end of the year. So peace out, guys. Thanks for watching. Talk to you again soon.